tiny spectrum analyzer and a VNA. And for some reason, the thing that's most popular is 50 feet of coax. We're not giving away, well, no, we're not giving away an Elecraft radio today.
Someday. You have to raise your dues, and then you'll be all set.
Raise the dues, and I think quite often, though, I've seen Elecraft, when you go to conferences, sometimes they give something away. Isn't that right?
Yeah,
Eric?
usually they buy it at a discount.
Right.
And occasionally for some of them I donate. Depends on what the trade-off is. Some shows what's the best way of what they do is they trade off instead of us buying booths like Visalia, we've got multiple booths and stuff, for a big booth. And some shows you pay by donating a radio or something like that, so it offsets the
Right. That
cost.
makes sense. We should talk about, maybe you'll mention that conference. I know we have several members who are going to be going down to that.
We'll be there. We'll be in
Yeah.
Forest. We've got a 40-foot wide booth. It's always the end cap facing
Oh, wow.
as you come
Okay.
in. And
I've never gone. This is the DX convention down in Visalia. When is it?
It comes up in April here in a couple of weeks, two
Okay.
or 3 weeks. Um,
Oh, all right.
it's very
Okay.
close and it's open to the public.
All right.
I believe the exhibits are free. You do need to pay the conference cost if you're going to be attending the talks and stuff they've got. But it's not horrendously high or anything. But it's a combination of the Northern Southern California contest and DX clubs, and plus a bunch of international people show up too. I think it's about 1,000 people roughly, depending on who's running the show and how well they promoted it. But
I
it's
might have to go. Did the Begalis come by any chance?
no, I don't know if they've been there or not. They might have. I see all sorts of people that I don't expect to see there. So I mean, I don't expect. I mean, I know them, but it's far away for them to come, and they show up. So we
That's
definitely get we get a lot of Europeans there. You'll get some of the real big DXpedition guys, of course, and Northern California DX Foundation people, all sorts of people. For those of you that are familiar with some of the discussion groups on the internet for our stuff, what is it? The groups.io K4 group, N6 TV is always at the show too, hanging out around our booth. TV Bob is there. He's a great guy. Helps people with their radios.
TV Bob. Okay.
Yep.
Our Bob, N6PGQ, knows TV Bob. All right. Well, let's get formally started. Good evening. I'm James Goldstene. You chose me to be your president this year, AE6JG. Good to see you guys. I'm really excited to introduce Eric Swartz, WA6HHQ, Elecraft CEO and co-designer of Elecraft's K4, KS3, K2, and other Elecraft products. He co-founded Elecraft in 1998 with Wayne Burdick, N6KR. He's been licensed over 54 years. His early interest in amateur radio led him to a career in electronic design and management. He received a BS in engineering and applied science from Yale University in 1979 and has been involved in a number of successful Silicon Valley startups. Prior to Elecraft, Eric was co-founder and president of Verisys, a test equipment manufacturer of high-performance protocol analyzers for the computer and mass storage market. Wayne and Eric also jointly received the ARRL's Technical Excellence Award for their Elecraft radio designs, which we really appreciate. One of the things that I think is very interesting about Elecraft is they kind of cover the extreme ends of the HF market. You go really big for your shack or really small for your walk with your dog. So I think it's really great. So Eric, I'm going to thank you so much for making the time and preparing this presentation. I know after your presentation, what you're really excited about are the questions. And I know we have questions about some of your newer products, one in particular, which you'll probably cover. And then we have questions like, how easy is it to build the kit if I order a kit version of a radio?
Sure.
So, all right, Eric, the floor is yours.
Okay, so can everybody, I assume people at home on their computers can see it. Everybody see the text on the slide? That's about the size of the text I'll have on the 2 or 3, 4 slides that come after this. Does it look pretty good on your screen there locally?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, great. So this is K4 update, and I'll probably talk about some of the other products too. Um, this is, of course, our high-end, top of the line HF transceiver, direct sampling SDR radio that we've had out for a couple of years in full volume production. Originally, it was announced actually before COVID, and then everything got slowed down where we couldn't get parts for a couple of years. And that was painful, but we made it through it, and there's thousands of them out there now. So it's been a very successful radio for us and continues to be that way. And we keep adding new features to it. So it's sort of cool. It's going to bring you folks up to date on what's new and on this, and both hardware and software, and then talk briefly about some of the new add-ons we're going to do for it, and also things like the K40 control head for remote control of it, and all that fun stuff. So I'm sure we have a mix of operators of different interests here, so I won't go into deep depth on each of these, but you can feel free to ask questions after I go through these short number of slides, and we'll be glad to answer anything and everything as much as I have information I can talk about there. So moving ahead here, let's see here. Oh, I got to click on the slide, I think, to get it to go. Okay, how do I do that? Hold on a second, guys. I got to get this to, oh, I got to hit play. That's what it is. Excuse me. So it'd be a little bit bigger. Hopefully that's viewable. Is that still okay?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, great. So a couple of things. This is a DXpedition and actually had all Elecraft radios on it. Do we have some DXers in the audience there? I would assume somewhere. Absolutely. Okay, cool.
We do.
This was the South Shetlands Island DXpedition. I think they went to South Shetlands, and there's one just north of there. I forget what it is. 2 different island groups. This one was rather well known. They were a very successful DXpedition, except they almost got blown off the islands in a storm. They actually had to evacuate the island, leaving behind their tents and K3s, excuse me, at that time, amplifiers, KP500 amplifiers, and a bunch of other stuff. They're actually, when they were operating, they were holding the tents up with their hands because they tended to collapse in the wind. These are big tents, and they're actually Arctic tents. But luckily, they were about ice blowing into the harbor, and when they didn't want to have a boat get stuck there, that had brought them in. Luckily, that passed, and they were able to get back on the island and operate some more. And that was only a one-night extravaganza, but definitely got our attention and successfully finished the DXpedition there. And I think it was South Georgia Island was the other place they stopped. Also had lots of wind. They had one antenna snap over and break there, but they had a tremendous amount of QSOs, and that's all of our equipment. Important thing I always tell people, no penguins were harmed in the making of this ad. We did move the penguins about 30% across the page to the left, so the picture of the guys inside the tent could be placed there. So the penguins didn't complain though, as we photoshopped them off to the side. But we've got a reputation with DXpedition people, and also the DXers working them. So we're very much concentrated on high performance stuff for multi-transmitter situations, but also stuff you run into with your friend down the block that's running a kilowatt on 160 or 80 when you want to work, somebody 10, 20 kilohertz away from them successfully. We do a good job with that. So that's why you see us on a lot of these expeditions. A lot of K4s going on expeditions right now too, including, I don't know if we showed it, I have a picture of it, but the Northern California DX Foundations now is buying K4s from us to put into what they call remote in boxes, RIBs, that, and there'll be a talk about this, I think, at Visalia, that basically a remote base that can be placed on an island. They may not be allowed to sleep overnight there, and they can operate from the boat and then have like a microwave link to the rib and control it that way. Or they can have guest operators coming in like over Starlink and operating on the island virtually. And it's just sort of cool. The radio's there though, so when you were working those people, the real transmitter is there, and it counts for DXCC. So it's sort of cool. It's a way to get on islands that you normally couldn't operate on very much. And that's you're going to see a lot more of that going forward. So K4 real quick, for those of you that are not familiar with us in terms of the K4, it's, I mentioned the direct sampling SDR. What that means is that we basically have a high-speed 16-bit analog to digital converter sampling the RF at your operating frequency. If you're on 20 meters, we are directly converting that to digital data at a rate that lets us sample right at 14 megahertz frequency range. And this is true all the way up through 6 meters on the K4. That gives us a lot of flexibility in filtering because we do it all in digital signal processing software in terms of the narrow filtering and noise reduction and all sorts of other features we have both on receive and transmit. Covers 160 through 600 watts. We have dual receive in all versions of the radios and also dual pan adapters if you want to set the screen either for just one band of pan adapter or split it in two with two bands at the same time. So you can always listen to the other side of the pileup if you're chasing DX or monitor other frequencies while you're talking to someone on one frequency. And of course, in contesting, people like to use that to look for multipliers, things like that. One of the key things that we're successful with on the K4, even more so than the K3, is the receive audio is incredibly clean. I don't know if any of you folks experimented in your early years of ham radio making direct conversion radios, real simple ones. They have a very clean sound to them. And really a digital signal processing direct sampling radio is a direct conversion radio for all intents and purposes, but with a lot more technology behind it to make it both very stable, but also very well filtered and so on. And we've had people walk up to us last year at like Visalia. I had Doug Grant, K1DG, who's a very well-known contester and out of the Northeast. He actually ran the first WRTC, I think, in the States, or one of the first ones when it was in Boston. And very active there. And we were at the he had Visalia, walks up to the booth and he commented to me that this is the best sounding radio he'd heard in 30 years or something. And he was just incredibly impressed with it. And he actually let us quote him for one of our ads. So that was sort of nice too. So the fatigue factor when you're chasing DX with lots of noise and everything else, or just general contesting or even rag chewing, it's much more pleasant to listen to than a lot of other radios out there. So that works out very well. You don't have to buy crystal filters, which is a big advantage. When you can dial down to 50 hertz on CW and of course out to even ESSB bandwidths on receive and transmit if you need to, but very easily with just a turn of a knob. We build in RX and transmit and receive equalizers, so you can equalize it for your microphone and your voice. I can take any mic, make it sound like a Heil HC5 or HC4 for DXing and contesting. And one thing we've done recently is implemented software to put what's called controlled envelope single sideband, which sounds very clean. It's actually a speech compression algorithm that doesn't result in horrible distortion when you crank it up too high. And it has actually more, and I can go elaborate into this afterwards if anybody is interesting, but it gives you much more effective average power than you could get with the old style that most of us used on radios for the last 20, 30 years of RF speech compression. And it basically prevents overshoot on the SSB waveform after you do the initial compression on it and filter it so you don't generate splatter when you do that. And it's all taking advantage of the fact that in a digital signal processor, everything is sort of a conga line or a delay line going through it, though it's not very long. But from our standpoint, we're running about a half a gigahertz clock rate. So we have a lot of samples and we can figure out how to correct for overshoot and things like that, and actually get more average power out of it before it even gets out of the DSP chip. So that's sort of neat. People love it. It's like getting an extra 3 or 4 dB over what you can get over a regular speech processor. And that was actually commented by the WRL in their review. So that worked out well for us. It was designed by Gary Hirschberger, W9GR. I don't know if he still lives in Grass Valley, but he was a commercial, or is a commercial, I think he's retired now, broadcast transmitter and radio broadcast stuff engineer, and maybe television too. And some of this stuff came from that industry, but he wrote a really good article on QEX about CESSB, mostly from a theory standpoint and, sort of functional block diagram level. But you had to come up with your own code, and we did that and put our own twist on it to make it hopefully work even a little bit better than he was hoping for. But we got great results, and I leave it on almost all the time. People don't even know I have compression turned on, so that, and then it has much more average power. We mentioned remote control. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with it. Do we have some remote control operators in the room? I can't really see in the small picture here if you raised your hands, but I assume there's a few folks that have done that or want to do that there. And we're making it easy for people with the K4.
The answer is yes.
Okay,
yes, you're
cool.
getting a positive response.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we do. We can, any K4 right now out of the box can control another K4. There's a RJ45 jack in the back for Ethernet. And you can hook up either one of those little extenders if you want that has an RJ45 on it and give you Wi-Fi for it, or you go directly onto your Ethernet network if you've got one, or into your local router. That's usually preferable, has a little less delay to it over Wi-Fi, but they both work quite well. So we can do K4 to K4. We have various software coming on down the pike now. We're working on our own VK4 that was delayed a little bit this year. I'm changing one of the engineering people on it, but the other stuff we've got what says K4 Mini here, but we named it the K4 Zero. I do have one of those with me. I'll show you. And it's got Wi-Fi built into it now. We were first saying we weren't going to do it, and then we did. So we found a nice way to do it. So it worked out by that. For those of you familiar with Tom, WA2 FSQs out of Canada, Win for K3 or Win for K4, he now has that working with full PAN adapter and streaming audio in the remote protocol interface that we provide in the K4. We make that protocol available to any developers. And also we have new software in the Mac world from Marcus Rushkosh, who's done it for a lot of other radios, including Flex, and then he has some simpler versions for ICOM and Kenwood. He's got that up and running with our stuff, and I can actually demo that here. So I'll be able to put that on the screen for you guys in a little bit. So all those things are popping up all over the place. So he's got it working on the Mac and iPad. I might be able to talk him into doing a small version for the iPhone. I've got one of those to play with. Nice to be able to whip out your phone and control your station and work that DXpedition really quickly if you want. But I actually even have a USB microphone that I've got here. I picked up at Best Buy, and I plug it into my iPad, and I've got everything equalized. They can't tell that I'm not on my main station at home when I'm sitting at the kitchen table, eating breakfast and working DX, which is sort of neat. So those are available, by the way, in the Apple App Store for the iPad, and the corresponding thing for the Mac. I have a MacBook I'm talking to you on right now, laptop, and I'll bring it up, the Mac version on here, but on the Apple Mac Store too, that's available also. And logging programs like M1M, everything else work with us too, and also WSJT for FT8. So we try to cover all the bases. A couple of key things about a lot of our products. We try to make things modular so we can upgrade them when new technology comes out. Good example is someday down the road, hopefully it won't cost an arm and a leg, but of course the current analog to digital converters are not cheap. They're multi-$100 chips for a single chip. But there always can be improvements made down the road for better linearity, which means better IMD dynamic range and also more dynamic range from an overall signal handling standpoint. So someday that may happen, and we have everything on a little plug-in card that we can drop in if we ever upgrade that. We did that in the K3 for the K3 owners out there. They'll remember when we went to the next version of our synthesizer called the KSyn 3A, and the A version was what we used in the K3S, but we made it available to all the other K3 owners, the original K3 owners, and that gave them much lower phase noise, which gets rid of what you call reciprocal mixing of that noise with off-frequency signals on covering up stuff on the frequency you're listening to. And that was a nice modular upgrade for that. Well, we plan to do that for the K4s, and actually still have some upgrades for the K4s coming that just plug into the radio with cables and a screwdriver basically to get them all installed. So we have some fun stuff coming there. You can upgrade from any one radio to the next, K4, K4D to K4HD. A K4 is a single analog to digital converter radio. It can listen though on 2 frequencies at once and have 2 PAN adapters at once, because we've got so much bandwidth with that A to D converter. We can take a big gulp of RF and then decide which smaller portions, even in 2 segments, that we're listening to. So you have this capability there of always listening to the other side of a pileup, listening to maybe the CW part of the band while we're up talking to someone on sideband or vice versa. But all from a single antenna feed to that analog to digital converter. You can't split it to multiple antennas at the same time when you're on split. K4D adds a whole additional front end of bandpass filters and an additional A to D converter and the down converter stage, another one of those cards I talked about. And that gets you a complete second parallel receive path, which is pretty cool for a number of reasons. One, obviously, you can listen on 2 different bands with 2 different antennas. Actually, you can feed up to 5 different antennas you can select on a K4D with our auto tuner in it to select either a different transmit antenna to listen on for the second channel, or a couple of receive port only ports on the radio too. And because you have 2 A to Ds now, one can be on one antenna port with an optimized antenna, one on another, or they can both be on the same band, same frequency, running what's called diversity reception. We have 2 different antennas that will listen on that band, and at different locations of property or heights, You get diversity. You listen like when a 40 meters or 80 meters is just opening or closing when the sun's going up and down. You can have one receiver in one ear on one antenna and one receiver in the other one, and it fades down in one ear and it still be above in the other. You get used to this after a while. You don't get seasick, but it makes a huge difference for DXing and for contesters because they don't lose signals and have to get repeats in contesting, so it gets their contact rate up. So, and also in general, I've actually listened to 40-meter nets with it, where the direction it appears to me in my headset, if I put my headphones on with the diversity reception, where the person, it doesn't match their geographic location, I can usually tell who they are by where it appears in my head. So that's sort of fun to play with too. But you can upgrade basically from a K4 to K4D with that. And we're just about to bring out our K4 HD, but also the HD upgrade. And I'm putting the main part of the upgrade in my hand here. I don't know if I can put that where, let's see, let me get it to where you guys can see it. And I'll change the focus briefly here. Let me change it. Whoops. Did I get it here? There we go. I think I got the focus. There we go.
We can see that. We can see
Yeah.
that.
So that's 2 channels with crystal filters that I've got plugged into it. These are custom made by us because we couldn't find any commercial ones that had enough dynamic range. And what the purpose of the K4 HD in the backside here has dual synthesizers in the middle there, those little silver squares you see in the upper, like the 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock position on the middle section, and microprocessor controlling it, and the 2 receive channels on both sides there. This with an additional D gives you basically everything you've got in a K4D, no loss of functionality, but something you can turn on when you've got that neighbor down the block that the single signal just is blanking and desensing your radio. Now, we can't clean up their dirty transmitter if they've got a dirty transmitter, but all things being equal, this buys you a significant amount of overload rejection from that single signal because it takes the blocking dynamic range from what is typical for most direct sampling radios. It's in the 128 dB above the noise floor range before you start feeling any of that desense, up to about 140. It's a huge increase, similar to what we had in the K3 on the super het front end. We're doing our own crystal filters with specially selected crystals, and they're manufactured for us to our spec. And that allows us to get this thing, because the crystal filters are actually now the weakest link in the chain because they can get overdriven by strong signals and actually create the distortion because we've actually equalized everything else in the system, all the preamps and other gain stages, so they aren't the limiting factor. And so we're down to vibrating mechanical objects again. In this case, it's quartz crystals that filter out the signal that you want and block the guy down the street or a mile away with the antenna pointed towards you. So it makes a big difference for that, field day, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Though K4 does wonderful, probably in 90% of the situations you can put it in. True for most all direct sampling radios. That way we do actually quite well with the parts we've got now, and so people have them on field day and have a great time and so on. But it even buys you even more in the extreme cases. And of course, the expeditions are looking forward to these too when they have to put a bunch of verticals on the beach within sight of each other, not a lot of isolation. Anyway, that's sort of cool. And that one is actually working in the lab, meeting spec right now. And we're going to be hopefully start taking orders on these things probably sometime after between Visalia and Dayton or right around that time frame. I got a couple of long lead time parts on it, the crystals in particular, that will limit when I start shipping real volume. I have enough for some field testers right now, but I'm going to have to get some more of that stuff in. But other than that, it's in very good shape. So that's good to see that being real. And the K40, which we'll talk about a little bit here, that one is basically fully functional now. We're testing out the pre-production boards, or actually it's supposed to be the production boards. These are the ones that came in recently. They had all the changes that we made to finalize the design. And we're just making sure everything is working the way we want. We've got new sheet metal in-house for all our field testers, and hopefully we'll be shipping field test versions of these here in the next 4 weeks. So that'll be pretty cool. And that's a big group of people. So you'll be seeing those out there. And I'll show one off here working that I've had for quite some time. I get to carry around and play with. Down the road, I'm not going to probably put a date on it. The very bottom there is we're going to be doing an internal last module you can add to the K4 as a dual band VHF, UHF all mode. Basically internal transverter module. It will give you somewhere around 20 watts out on VHF and UHF all mode. So you can do FM, you can do weak signal, 2 meters, 432, what you want to do there. But that one is not finished design yet. We've got it on paper, but that one has to go after we get the HD and the K40 out the door. Almost done with the slides. So A couple things. Just a key thing is right now, all the radios and big radios and most of our smaller ones too are typically shipping in from stock to a week or so after order. If we get a rush of orders, they can kick it out a couple extra weeks, but we're no longer in these days of waiting months to get a K4 or a KX2 or a KH1. We basically have production matching, keeping up with our order rate, and we've been able to stabilize that nicely over the last 6-8 months. We've got new releases on K4 software, usually roughly quarterly. It's not a fixed schedule, but we've added additional enhancements for remote operation, like local DVR recorded on your, say, K40 or your local K4, and being able to run that up to the remote, or use the remote for the DVR and CW messages. Either way, you'll be able to switch back and forth. I think I've already covered these other ones here. I mentioned the Mac and iOS versions of the software went for K4. And I know he just got the audio working to his satisfaction on that. He had a couple of, there was some misunderstandings on the protocol, and my lead software engineer on this for the protocol side, Brandon, who actually created remotehams.com, the free remote-based HF radio software. He worked with Tom and actually looked at his code and helped him get it to where things are flying now. Tom looks like he's very happy on getting Win4 K4 out the door. That's a really good control package, either in the shack, just augmenting your radio, or using it remotely, because he's got, again, streaming pan adapters, streaming audio now, and all of his stuff. So people that are very familiar with that, I'm sure there's some users in the audience here, should be happy to see that coming out pretty quick. And I think I mentioned the remote in box down here at the bottom. We were a sponsor of that DXpedition in Rotuma. I may have said Clipperton Island by mistake. I just remembered it was Rotuma. Looking at my slides, it's been a long day here, but that just happened this year. So that was pretty cool also. I mentioned the CESSB. I mentioned the improvement in average talk power, 6 to 8 dB, and that was without significant distortion. That was a quote from the ARRL QST review of the radio. We can record off air now and play back in DVR, including the TX monitor, so you can record, you're working that DXpedition, and you actually got both sides of the conversation. We've added back in CW and SSB mode, especially for upper bands, like up in 6 meters. That's very popular. Some minor things, we've got a macro you can create. We have little macro commands where you can string commands together and assign them to a button. And you can actually take our KPA 1500 and change antenna selections from the K4 front panel with buttons that you define in there. And it's really neat. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. Lost you for a second. We had a glitch in the internet, but it's back.
Where did you lose me at? What was I talking about?
Only for a second. You were talking about the KPA 1500 and the
antenna selection. We have, for those of you that have K4s, you probably know this. I think we did this K3s also. We have little 2-letter commands that are separated with a semicolon at the end of each command that you can send serially to the radio, or you can define buttons in the radio with a little on-screen keyboard. When you press that button, they can say go split, transmit up 5, those 2 commands, and whatever else you want, set power to 100 watts. You can set a whole bunch of commands in sequence. And we have a command called EC with a semicolon after it to basically select if you have a KPA 1500 hooked up with your K4, so that's our big amplifier. That has an aux cable that has communication between the radio and the amp, and among other things, including band data and frequency information. And that command will let you select between the 2 outputs in the KPA 1500, which is handy for people too. So that's a simple thing we added in, but it's just that's the kind of fun stuff we do from time to time. There is the 1500 with the K4. Just to give you an idea what size they are. They both are desktop units, and they're not terribly heavy. The 1500 is a bit heavier because it's got a big heat sink inside to get rid of all that heat from the 1500 watt amplifier. And 1500 also has its main power supply. It's a very quiet switching power supply. It's in a separate identical sized box. Generally, people will put that under the table, but not in a dusty area, please, because you can obviously fill it up with dust. Keep the cats from sleeping on them too. We've had some interesting return to amps where the cat decided that was its sandbox. It wanted to sleep on top of it and fertilize it. But that's not good for an amplifier, or a power supply. But generally out of the way. You can put it. I've had other guys put them behind a wall and just out of the way in another, in another part of the shack. Works pretty well. So that was, I think, everything I was going to talk about there. That's actually from the VP8 STI South Sandwich Island expedition we were looking at. That was their QSL card. And I think I got time for now lots of questions. Actually, before I do that, though, Keel, hold the questions. I'm going to show you a couple of pieces of goodies I've got here. I think you were mentioning, you get the focus back on my face here so I'm not fuzzy.
Eric, do you want to make your screen bigger? Maybe stop sharing and just so we can see if you're going to show us stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me get out of it here. Hold on here. Stop sharing.
I
have to get my cursor back here, guys. Hold on a second here. How do I get out of this here? There we go. Stop share.
There you go. Now we have
now you got full size.
We have you full screen.
Okay.
So, yeah. So now you can show us.
And you're lucky I didn't have coffee tonight with my dinner. I would have been talking even faster. Yeah, I get accused of that a lot, so I have to pause myself and slow down a little. So what I'd like to show off is a couple of things. I already talked about this guy. Am I still full screen with you guys?
Yeah, you're full screen now.
Okay,
yeah.
so that was the HD option. So let me go over here and grab it. Well, first of all, I'm going to show you. I've got a couple of things here. I've got, let me bring this guy up here. So I'm looking at a K4, and I'm just going to walk over to these. Can you guys hear me okay as I walk around? I got a long.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I got a long cable in my lapel mic. If I trip, you'll know that I messed up here.
See it and hear it.
Yeah. So let me make sure I'm on the right. Let's see. I'm on the K4. There I am. Okay. So this, what we're looking at here, this is the K40. You can see a little Wi-Fi guy on it here. And it's actually connected. There's not much going on in 10 meters right now. I'm going to disconnect it and connect it to one of my, well, I was connected to Brandon, so he was quiet, so I could change his band. Let me go back here. I'll show you how this all works in a second. But this guy, if I pick it up, I'm going to disconnect the microphone just to make it easier here and not get tangled up. I was testing it out on the air today. One of our engineers, Brandon, I mentioned earlier. So I hit the off button there. Let me let that power off for a second, and I'll pick it up. Brandon lives up in, I get down here where you can see me. Brandon lives up in Redding, California. He moved up there from Salinas during COVID with his family, built a home up there. And it's a nice quiet location, and he actually has both Starlink and also microwave link for high-speed internet, and does software development for us on remote and a bunch of other stuff up there. And one of the nice things is I can listen to my own signal from down here, say on 40 meters on Brandon's house up in Northern California with 2 different remote control setups here. So what I'm going to do is show you a couple of things here. First of all, K40 is quite small, as you can see here. We have a little plug-in SMA in the back. Actually, this is one of our engineering prototypes, so it's on the wrong side of the radio. It's going to be over here in the production. We already have the sheet metal in for that, so it'll be on the left side as you look at it. And this is a fully working unit. It's basically got the same front panel, exactly the same front panel as a K4, and it has all the same functionality. You can do basically everything you can do in a K4 with this. Same screen, same data. As a matter of fact, when I have people come up and operate on it, they ask where the antenna is at the shows. And of course, we can do K4 to K4 the same way. So I'm going to power this one back up. By the way, it's powered right now. I'm actually going to change this. It was getting power over USB-C here from a little wall-wart, little 30-watt wall wart plugged into the floor. But we actually have room for an internal battery on the back here. And by the way, this has all the same I/O. Let me get a little closer for you guys here. I'm going to go close so I can focus the camera on this. Just a second. Let's see here. Oops. Come back here, camera.
Yeah, we got it.
There we go. Yeah, if I just partially push the shutter thing, it actually tries to take a picture if I push it all the way. So you can power it with an Anderson power pole like a K4, but you also can plug a USB-C cable, not for data, but for power into it. And I run it that way. That way it's just a very small, little hold in your hand wall wart, just like you would charge your iPad up or power your MacBook with, or other things. And if you want to charge as an internal battery option, you can see this door here. We have a 6-cell lithium-ion battery that we have for it. That, if you want to have a convenient way to have a battery running it, is sort of cool. Or you can do what I'm going to do here. I've got one of these portable batteries for charging your phone. So I'm going to plug that into the back of this, and we're going to power it up, and I'm going to connect to Brandon's station with that. And then I'll show you on the K4 because I've got that screen set up for HDMI capture, so you guys can see it as I do the same thing on that, just to give you a feel. Okay, so let me power it up now. It's powering up, and I've taken the USB cable here. I know it's chopping me off. I wanted to get these guys in the picture. Let me adjust the focus so you can see that a little better again. This time. There we go. Thank God for autofocus. Okay, so now I'm sort of simulating what the internal batteries would be doing, but I'm just carrying this around, as you can see. It's booting up as I do this. And I'm waiting for it to finish coming up. We've got some test code in it now, so it takes a little longer to come up. But once it comes up, normally it'll be underneath, probably 20 seconds, 25 seconds to come up. And wake up. Okay, we're up and running. Same K4 screen we had before. I'm going to bring up a screen that lets us pick who you're going to connect to. I'm going to connect to Brandon up in Northern California. And again, no wires, just this plugged into it. And I'm going to go connect. And I'm going to change bands, go down to 40 meters, which should be more interesting probably. Definitely a lot more signal. And see what's out there. So there's a lot going on, probably.
And that has a speaker in it?
Yeah, 2 speakers, stereo.
All right.
So there you go. So magic. So there we go.
You could be anywhere in the world and run your home.
Yeah, I've done this from hotel rooms and all sorts of fun stuff. There's some tricks in hotel rooms because you have to deal with some interesting stuff there, but in general, it works everywhere I've used it. So I've had a lot of fun working DX with that. So the other thing I'm going to do is, let me get back over to me here for a second. I'm going to go and take the other K4 and connect to the same station. I'm going to show you guys how I did it on screen. I can actually bring that K4 up right now. Let me see here. Screen capture, there we are. So that's the screen, same one that I had on the K40. Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, so these are all you see the buttons on the side. You can get band buttons, everything else. And you'll see me walking around here at the same time. Yeah, going over here. So this one's already on 40 meters. I'm going to bring up Brandon Station. Oh, oops, there I go again. I unplugged it. Sorry about that. I got to plug that back in. That's what I get when I'm putting it on battery and waving it around. Let's see, is it coming up? Yeah, I'm just going to put it back on USB here just in case. Okay. I need to get the internal battery in this one. We were just getting some new mounting brackets for it and putting it inside. So, okay, that'll power up. So I'm on the other one now over, can you guys see me at all? Or you're just seeing the screen of that?
Yeah, we have you in the upper right corner of our screen.
Okay, so I'm over here somewhere. I don't know, am I on, that must be my main feed, yeah. So you won't see detail of me, but I'm going to basically, there's a little globe you can see in the lower left-hand side there. And that's currently has me looking, controlling my home station, I think. Or was I on Brandon? I was on Brandon's station or not? What was I on? No, I'm on my own station. So I'm going to disconnect. You can see this is our status screen. I just touched that globe. And that shows me things like what the current latency is audio-wise and what the ping time is for a round-trip ping of an internet packet. And we can change the buffer size that you're listening with. If you have a bad connection, you can make the buffer longer so you don't get any dropouts. I'm just going to disconnect from that. I've saved some of these. Some of these you see here, the K4, the serial numbers, those are ones that we just find on the network with us automatically. But I have things saved, like there's Brandon's house there. I just tapped on it. I already had saved the login for it and password. And I'm going to hit the connect button down here in the lower left-hand side. And magically, now I'm connected. And so you're seeing the same guys there that we were looking at before.
Not many people
Can you guys hear any of that?
Yeah, it's coming through.
That's coming to my microphone and the lapel mic. So you're seeing the guy there on the right side talking. He's quite strong. He's about S9 plus 10 plus 20. And you can see that on there. So that gives you an idea. And that's K4 to K4 remote. And again, the K30 and the K4 act exactly the same way when they're in that mode of operation, which is sort of cool. And we've got things like band buttons, so you have instant, selection what band you want to go to. You can do direct frequency entry. You can control the pan adapter. So say if you want to change the pan adapter, not to show just pan A, if you see there, I just made that A plus B, and now I'm looking at the CW part of 40 meters and the sideband part of 40 meters at the same time. And then I can go back and just have pan A. So it's sort of cool to do that. Just because I just want to give you guys the idea what the interface looks like on there. So display means the pan adapter portion of the display. Function keys, you can define your own keys. I have one here that adjusts different kinds of splits. I have one on something that Brandon has set up. I don't even know what he's doing with it. And we can also upgrade software on this on these same screens, just like you upgrade it on your phone. So it works really nice. That's true for the K402. So anytime I release software, you can check and see if there's something new, hit update, and it'll do it all automatically while you watch. And then when you actually use it and say you found a bug and you want to go back to the previous version, we always leave that on the server too. You can actually bring down a list and say, okay, I want the prior version that I just had, the last release version. And you can go back to that while we figure out if we made a mistake or something, or hopefully not. But those are how those guys look. So that's sort of a quick, sort of touchy-feely thing here. I don't want to tie you up too much on it and go through it an embedded demo, but I can show things off if people want me to. And I'm going to sit back down here. And so you're seeing me wave at you right now? Are we in the right camera?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure which one you were seeing my feed on, but I'm glad that's working. Okay, great.
Well, we're seeing the K4 screen big and you little.
Okay, does this go away when I do this? Am I gone now or am I still there?
You're gone.
Okay, so that was my picture-in-picture feed then. Okay, cool. Okay. I'm glad that works. So if I go back to myself, you're just going to see me on top of myself. I'll close the picture. Right. So I can do picture-in-picture that way, which gets really confusing, but I'll turn that off. Yeah. So that was just wanted to show you a little bit about what they look like physically and stuff. I do have a couple of fun things to show you. I've got. You mentioned walking. We have some KH1 owners in the crowd. I think you've got a KX3, right? If I remember correctly.
I have a KX3. Wilson here, N6 EMF raced. Oh, you almost bought one. Okay.
Well, we'll get you eventually. Well, this is the KH1, which is the nice little small portable one. And you have a whip antenna with a built-in loading coil, built-in auto tuner option. We pretty much sell 99% of them with all the options in them, but it has an option for an internal lithium-ion battery, a 3-cell battery. Have a nice day of walking around, working people. And we've got a lot of people just pull up the antenna, throw out a trailing wire wherever they go, and they're on the air in less than a couple of minutes. And at the beach or up on a little mountain hill top, and people thought we were crazy to do something like this. I won't tell you how many of these things we've sold. They're a blast, and it's just it's fun to have one in your glove compartment of the car when you get the urge to operate. You have to be a CW operator. It will receive sideband, but it's neat radio. This one's our KX2, uses that same internal battery. I don't know if you can see that. I didn't have it turned.
Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah, but so this is a smaller version of the KX3. We drop off 6 and 160 meters on the outside. Makes a lot of it easier to shrink down. We did get what I think it's a better battery actually than the KX3. We couldn't fit it. We couldn't fit the lithium ion in the KX3 after the fact. It wasn't available when we first developed it. But so we got nickel metal hydride AA cells or alkalines you can put inside on that. But on the KX2, we've got that 3-cell pack that's also used by the KH1. And we have an option for a built-in paddle. You have a microphone. This is all mode. People run data with this, all sorts of stuff. And these things are like the soda guys love these things because they take them all over the place and grab and go. And the KX3s are also, I think, the other big soda radio. So those two have been very successful because they're all mode. So pretty cool stuff. So with that, I'm going to switch here. Well, actually, I'm still here. Actually, I got to see if I've got, let me get my this screen, and I can see you guys. Now I'm going to make you guys full screen so I can see the room better too. Hold on a second.
All right. And I'm going to turn the lights back on.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
There you go. So you should be able to see us better. Well, are you ready for some questions?
Yeah. Let me pull my chair up a little more closely here and get comfortable.
All right.
And make sure this is okay. Let me get that. I'm here. Okay, go ahead. What do we got?
All right, we have Bob, N6PGQ.
Hello, Eric. You're coming out with PC control for the K4, and when it finally comes out, will the VPod come out at the same time so that
That's
we
my
have
goal right now.
complete control?
Yeah. So for people who don't know what a VPod is, we have a K-pod, and some of you K4 owners probably have one. I didn't have one in the room with me, but it's a nice portable little, small box that talks over USB to a K4 and gives you an additional big control knob. Some people like the equal like the VFOA, a VFOB knob. So this gives you can be VFOA, VFOB, or it'll switch on there on the K-pod. About this big of a box, about that thick, and that provides also, at least in firmware that we've tested, the same CW engine that we use for K4 to K4 or K40 to K4. This is a protocol that sends not characters, but sends your dots and dashes and spacing between them with timestamps upstream in a buffered upstream. The only delay is the total delay on the internet, but we don't, it's buffered such that the buffer's big enough to handle, intermittent delays without actually causing delays in your data stream, because we buffer it up a little bit ahead of time, and we can accommodate that jitter and varying delay on the internet. And so it maintains the sound of your fist. And that's a nice working protocol. We're going to make that open for anybody of the other guys that are developing their own remotes to use also if they want. So right now, if you have a regular K-pod, we can show you how to modify it and we'll give you free software to do the CW stuff. In order to get a key into it, there's a little jack in the back of the K-pod that has 3 output lines that are open drain FETs to turn things on and off, which is more of an experimenter portion of it. And we never really use those for anything. So if you take the 3 transistors off the circuit board and they just pop off because they're surface mount, you're not going to be pulling leads out of the board and doing that kind of stuff. But you can get them off easily, and you just bridge them with a piece of wire or a solder blob from the input to the output. The PIC microprocessor inside the K-pod can repurpose that as an input. And there's actually pull-up resistors inside the PIC. So you just plug in your paddle, and this is how I operate it. And I can plug that into my software, and I actually have a working version of VK4, but it's not finished. We actually haven't, like I said, some more work we're doing on it right now. Wish you had infinite number of engineers. It's a little tough to get everything done as fast as I want sometimes, but this actually works very well for CW on that. So that's a very nice way to be able to operate. Now the other thing is the challenge when you're running software for your complete control of your system is how does it integrate with your logging program? How does it integrate with WSJT? How does it, for sound card and for control of the radio? And one of the nice things we're doing inside the VPod, the virtual, we call it, it's really not virtual, but it's for virtual applications like VK4 or possibly with Marcus's software on the Macs and iPads and stuff. It gives you that same tunable knob, of course. There's also function keys on both the K-pod and the VPod you can program. But the VPod also has several things going on. How do you really want to get your side tone for CW in your headphones. So over one USB cable, in addition to dealing with all the tuning stuff for the K-pod and the function key stuff, it also has the ability to plug your headphones in or some speakers, or I don't know if it's amplified speakers or just regular speakers. I forget what the audio amplifier is inside it. And it mixes those audio streams together. So you hear your side tone just like you would and adjust it with a control for side tone level in your headphones or on the speakers, along with the audio of what you're receiving, just like a radio would be. That's the first thing we wanted to get done. The second thing is it also provides you with a virtual sound card port for your WSJT or FT8 or RTTY software, and also a what was I thinking? Oh, and also the control ports, 2 virtual, look on those virtual USB serial ports that basically show up as soon as you plug this in. And that will allow you to have 2 different programs talking to the K4 at the same time externally. And they can be on the same computer as your VK4 or whatever is running. So that's the idea, is to make it so you don't have to go out and buy third-party software to provide a whole bunch of virtual paths to get back and forth. Obviously, you get the control knob, which is very nice when you're running just off of a screen. And of course, all the audio paths now are available for you to plug into software-wise, just like you would if you were running stuff between a K4 and a desktop PC for your logging programs and WSJT. So VPod, yes. As a matter of fact, the engineer who's working on it just got back from a business trip in Asia. He actually has I think he's retired from his original business in Silicon Valley as a designer, but he still does consulting, and he was over in Taiwan on a project that's being done for a company here, but it's had some engineers over there, and he was making sure that that was going smooth, and he's back working on the K-Pod right now. So we hope that will be out at or before we get the VK4 stuff out. And to answer, long answer to your question, but that sort of describes it for everybody so they know what I'm talking about.
That's great. Thank you, Eric. I think N6HA has a question online. Bill?
Yeah, hi. I saw on the back of the K4 remote you're showing us, there's a 12
Yeah.
out RCA jack. What's that
Yes.
for?
That's for any accessories you've got that are relatively low current. I think it's under an amp. Let me take a look at it. Well, it's not easy to turn around here. It's either a half amp or an amp. We had that on the K4 also and on the K3. And the K3 you used to use it like to power the pan adapter for the K3, the P3, but it's more just multi-function output for you to use for different things. You can also use it to turn different things on and off because that obviously cycles on and off with the power in the radio.
Thank you.
Other question?
Wilson. Oh, Billy, did you have something else?
No, that's it for now. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Wilson and N6EMF, do you have a question? And then Carol will ask a question.
I like that call sign. That's great.
Yeah, N6EMF. Good afternoon. Good evening, Eric. Thanks for joining us.
He makes a big deal about that.
Yeah. Actually, I don't have an intelligent question.
And he's really an engineer too.
There's no dumb questions. That's
Well,
I learned a
I was
long
going to
time.
ask if you have layaway for these radios.
No, no, I don't.
No, it's really meant for good humor. But no, I really I think you answered all the questions that I would have asked. But one came to mind just at the last minute is do you have any plans for this radio to be somewhat in kit form or give the user an opportunity to put the panels together or snap some things together?
Yeah, on the and unfortunately, the answer is no, we're probably not going to do that. We originally thought we were going to, but what's happening, obviously the soldering surface mount stuff's not a practical thing from kit building standpoint because the parts are so small and the handling cost just of packaging individual parts, of course, is just incredibly tough when they're small like that. It's easier when they're leaded parts. We still sell the original K2 because we can easily still get the through-hole parts and they're easy to package. But what we were finding is from a cost standpoint, if we did that, it would cost more we have to test all the boards either way. In other words, they all go through the same manufacturing process here. And if you're modularly building the radio, we actually made less on kit radio K3s, for instance, that were modular than we did on the production ones. And the complexity obviously is even higher when you're on a K4. So unfortunately, if we look at the time it would take to do the manual, which is a lot of work, the kit manuals are much harder to do than operating manuals. And K4, by the way, has a built-in operating manual that updates whenever new software comes out, which is nice. Plus, you can get it on the web and print it out. But and we have a quick start manual that comes with it. But the key thing is it's economically, people like to see, oh, I'm going to save some money building a kit because I was a kit person when I was a kid, and that was the first thing you were thinking of. Though even though you get hooked on building because you learn and stuff so much from it. And we still make the radio, we'll talk, we're quite open about how things work in the radio. So we let people modify their radio. If they break it, of course, it's got to get fixed and then they have to pay for it. But that's the risk of all of us playing with our radios. But plenty of folks have modified their K4s and K3s and stuff like that. So it's not a secret on working with you guys on that stuff. But I apologize that the kits are just too expensive for us to produce to do that effectively with a K4 level radio.
I have two more questions, kind of a follow-up. So thank you for that explanation, Eric. And but I guess the thought would, recognizing the complexity of the radio, maybe consider having a part or two someone could just snap on for a sense of ownership that I did it. Maybe maybe it's just snapping on a knob or, something on the back or some stickers.
Yeah, I can do something like, well, we do let you guys, we
have
do
to-
let you, we do let all of you do the upgrades. For instance, when you get, if you get the K4 HD or going, if you say you're going from a K4 to a K4D, you're going to get 2 boards, and these are pre-tested, but one is another set of front end bandpass filters. So you just hear the band of choice. That gives you your first level of protection for the A to D converter. But secondarily, you also get another A to D converter in the K4D. That's how you get to the second antenna receive path, is by having 2. That's a good mechanical assembly operation. You learn a lot about it because you have to open the top and the bottom of the K4. You're going to plug in the bandpass filter on the bottom and screw it in. That's pretty straightforward. I think there may be 1 or 2 small coax cables coming from it that snap into it. One goes
Very good.
and they go into the digital compartment, and you plug in the digital compartment. You're going to have to unscrew the single board computer, which is about that big, and that flips over, and you unscrew a little card cage cover that holds in these cards that we add for the A to D and D to A converters for the transmit side. And there's 2 open slots, one for the second A to D converter that you'll add for the K4D. And the HD, there's 1 more A to D converter that goes in that same area. And then you have to connect the cables to those. And you put this board in the front of the radio, just behind the front panel. I forget which side faces forward. I'm not sure. I think it's the crystal filters, I think, face forward. So you've got this side facing towards the back. And then there's 1 little ribbon cable that goes between them. So you'll definitely get, we trust you guys to do that level of work. And these are fairly constrained parts where you definitely get to get your hands inside and get dirty a little bit. So I think that might accomplish what you were talking about.
Well, thank you for mentioning that, as well as the information about the K2, that it's still available or that you have it available on the kit.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. Thank you.
That's incredibly popular. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. Wayne and I designed that literally, prototyped it in our basements, and he lives about an hour away from me. He lives in Belmont near San Carlos on the San Francisco Peninsula, near north of Stanford, I think, a little bit. And I live on Monterey Bay, and Aptos, about 6 or 8 miles south of Santa Cruz. I'm a Silicon Valley escapee. I got out here in 1985 and never went back. So it's a nice area to live and work. And of course, the company's just 10 minutes south of me down here in Watsonville. So we have a nice production facility here. It works out nice. We have engineers both here and up and down the West Coast working for us.
Thanks, Eric. I think Carol, KP4MD, has a question.
Yeah, thank you very much. I had a few questions also. First of all, my first question, I think you answered already, was the issue of the remote operation with CW.
Mhm.
There's always been a problem with latency over internet
Yes.
connections, but I think you answered that because you say there's a side tone that's built into the remote unit that overcomes that problem. Because
Oh, you got to have local side tone. There's no way you can send fast. I'm an old CW op. I had to be 20 words a minute back when I was much younger than this, and
Absolutely.
I've maintained my almost hopefully keep it above 30 words a minute speed. I don't operate as much as I used to on CW, but I still love it. So Wayne and I and Wayne's I'd say 80% CW guy these days. So we both wanted to do the best job possible. So we made sure that it met we're pretty picky about how it sounds. And I've got some very picky customers. We mentioned Bob and TV Bob N6 TV. Bob can hear differences in weighting on the side tone, in terms of dot and dash weighting. And he caught something, we were off a little bit in the K2, and I couldn't even hear it. And I've been operating CW since I was 14, and he caught that. But he's been involved in this too.
Now, for those of us who operate FM repeaters, is
Mhm.
this, the K4 is configurable for working the 6-meter and the 10-meter repeaters? And
Absolutely. And it's
when-
got sub, what do you call it?
the
CTS,
sub-audible tone.
subaudible tone, PL, whatever you want to use, call
Yeah,
it.
so I imagine when you have the VHF transmitter, it'll also work on 2-meter repeaters as well.
2 meters and UHF repeaters, yes.
Okay, and then another question. How is it that you got to meet Wayne Burdick and got together with him? And what were the first projects you were working on, and how did you decide to start Elecraft?
Well, that's an interesting story. I'll keep it as short as possible, under several minutes here. Back in the mid 90s, I had started this company, Verisys, with another engineer, and we were developing tools that these are like $5,000 or $10,000 test instruments that were used by people like Adaptec, Seagate, Apple, IBM, that could clamp onto the old parallel SCSI hard disk bus and find 1 in a million problems, because it's a very poorly defined standard. Then with different manufacturers' products, they did all sorts of bad things. And one problem that would lock a system at EMC's big server farms, once a week that we could find. And of course, you can fix those kind of problems. They're very happy to pay the money for it. So I was doing that, and I had designed the original hardware using some very early FPGAs, and then kicked myself out of engineering and ran the company. And at that time, a few years into that, I was starting to get a little bored. Company was doing very well, and I saw that there were some little radio kits at a local ham fest down in Monterey called Radio Fest that were from this group I hadn't even heard of, the NorCal QRP Club. I was not a QRP guy, though I operated down at the milliwatt level when I was a kid, of course, making contacts on oscillators almost. But it was a 5-watt, 40-meter kit that was kitted by the club. They were selling it for under $100 with a case. I mean, a little aluminum, two U-shape. Anybody in the group have a NorCal 40? I don't know if anybody out there does, but okay, you know what it looks like. And so I had one of the early ones in the first 100. And Wayne designed that. He was number 3 person in that club, and he designed it actually to attract people to the club. And it was a club of people that like to experiment, just like the previous person was saying, they wanted to be able to get inside the radio and poke around. And they do that, and they would either modify their own radios or put their own ideas for new radios and build them, blow things up, get lots of smoke and all the fun stuff when you're doing that. And they had meetings every month in a place called the California Burger out in Livermore. Back when Livermore had a flea market out at, was it the junior college out there in Livermore, where it used to be all the boat anchors would come from, people would bring them in from the Central Valley if you like to collect Army surplus stuff. But it was a great place to go. And I showed up at that and ended up meeting, I think either the second meeting I went to was once a month, and Wayne was there, and he and I started talking. And I wasn't targeting him specifically. I just happened to, I knew he designed it, and I was impressed, and I told him where my background was and as a design engineer, because I'd spent my career initially in Silicon Valley designing a lot of different stuff and loved doing that. And I was very impressed with his elegance of his design style, and he had a very good working radio. I had bought one with another friend we were both DXers at the time with, kilowatt stations and Alpha 87s and things like that. And I took the NorCal 40 running, he was 4 watts, and I boosted it up to a whole 5 watts. So I was right at the limit, and worked 108 countries on 40 meters that first year. That was quite enlightening. On CW, if you bob and weave just right at 5 watts, you could be heard just as well as the big guys, as long as they're not transmitting at the same time. So you learn really quick how to break pileups, and made me a much better DXer at any power level. So during that, met Wayne. He and I became good friends. I was still running this company. I said, we joked, sometimes on field days and stuff. We did a couple field days together with friends. Yeah, it'd be fun to start a ham radio company. And of course, being a businessman, I said, that's crazy. Who would want to do that? And though, I'd always thought about it, but I couldn't make sense out of it financially. But I had some good experience running the company I had at Verisys. And I was actually later in the 1990s, I was getting closer to selling it. And I was kicking some ideas real late night out in south of San Jose. It's near Morgan Hill. There's a Henry Coe State Park. We were operating with another radio he designed called the Sierra. I actually helped him debug that. And that was a hot switch band modules, NE602 mixer-based 5-watt radio with a very nice Werner tuning dial and stuff. A little bit more than the NorCal 40, but you could have multi-bands very quickly with it. And we had a great time. We'd throw long wires out and put our downslope to the east, and that magnification from the downslope, and do really well on field day. And we started kicking around the idea of a perfect field day radio, and that was sort of what became the K2. And I still was wondering whether it's made any sense, but I started running numbers and realizing, this was a great way to come in the market. The Japanese wouldn't pay attention to us because it was a kit, and they'd figure that wasn't serious. Little did they know that I was a performance nut, and Wayne's a very good design engineer also. Matter of fact, of the two of us, he's the mad scientist. I mean, we're both a little bit mad to be doing this, but he's definitely the mad scientist. And does some amazing ideas. And then our jobs are together to sort of be Mutt and Jeff and make it reality. And so I understand the cash flow and business issues in addition to being a designer. And I sort of still run all the engineering teams from a management standpoint. And of course, Wayne's extremely involved in every aspect of what we do. So we on a lark, as I was selling my other company, actually within while I was getting ready to sell it, we were working on the K2 design. I was actually on vacation scuba diving with my wife somewhere, writing things on napkins and a way to fax them back from whatever land resort we were around. So that was back in the 90s. And 1998 in June, end of June 1998, I sold out of my company and then went full-time on Elecraft, and we'd already been doing prototypes in the K2, and we shipped the first of our first 100 field test radios to paying customers that were field testers, which is sort of like acolytes. They're going to go out once they build it, because it has to work better if you build it, and tell their friends. And it worked out perfectly for us in that aspect, and just took off from there. And pretty much was cash flow positive by the time we were midway through that first year of 1999. And we were able to get most of our invested cash out of it within the first couple of years and get going on it. So very small, but it was very, very gratifying to see it take off. We got a lot of coverage from QST because the receiver in the K3 was, for its time, one of the best ones out there. And it surprised the heck out of the guys with the $5,000 radios at that time, which would probably be $20,000 radios today. But that's how we got together. I tried to, that's about as short as I can tell it. There's a lot more detail, but that's how we met each other.
Well, congratulations. You certainly have top performing product out there, and definitely preferred by the DXers and the DXpeditions, and you're a tremendous asset to the amateur radio community.
Oh, thank you
so much.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Let me see. I have one question, but let me see if there are any other questions.
Don't be scared. I answer almost anything.
Yeah, quick question about, my name is Walter, K6HTD. And quick question about the, is there a significant latency difference between the Wi-Fi remote versus running it through an RG45?
RJ45 Ethernet is a little bit faster. Both of them are, if you look at the actual network delays, to a large extent, they are pretty comparable, except when there's a lot of Wi-Fi activity in an area. I tend to do it, for instance, at my house. I'm up on a hill in Aptos with a lot of people around me below and sides. You get close to the ocean, the lots get smaller and more expensive, that kind of stuff. And I'm about a mile off the ocean. A lot of 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. So if I go down there, I do notice more dropouts and things like that. Whereas on the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, which of course everything is dual band these days, so you can select that. That tends to be much less of an issue. I don't really see a delay that bothers me. If K6XX, we call him XX Bob. We have a lot of Bobs in our company, but Bob's a big contester. He manages my large part of my amplifier stuff as a senior engineering guy on that. He's a big contester. He's trying to get his delay on his Ethernet down lower because he could get his rate up per hour. And so he would probably feel a little bit of a change with Wi-Fi. To be honest, when I've been operating with it, as I mentioned, kitchen table portable. I'm on the side of a hill, and my ham radio shack is 2 stories below me. I'm on 2 livable stories and like a half width one for the base slash. It's above ground, but on that slope. So I was sitting up there and eating cereal, and the station came on that was interesting to work, and I got on there and had no problem breaking the pile up. And I was just running 100 watts. I hadn't turned the amplifiers on at all, and I don't notice any significant delay there at all. Now, if you're trying to crack a pile up, it's probably a little more critical. If I have a Ethernet, I'll generally plug it into it. But of course, a lot of places and houses these days, you don't have Ethernet jacks everywhere. Actually, I don't want them because I didn't want to have any leakage into my HF gear. But I have some down, available in my shack and stuff. But it's not, the whole house is not wired for it. So generally, I'm on Wi-Fi if I'm outside of the shack and have no problem with it. But you'll see a little bit, but it's not horrendous at all. It's not, again, a lot of times the internet delays that you run into, even like the dropouts you just had here during this talk, You know, you're going to notice those more than anything else, and they're not horrible. I mean, if people are making this work on Starlink, that's got a lot of delay to it, you know, but it's not total throughput delay, but you can get the latency as the satellites, you know, hand off to one another and stuff. So we've done some stuff with Brandon operating on that, and that's a little different. And but you can make it work too. They did that for the Rotuma de-expedition. They were using Starlink to get to it.
Thanks, Eric. Any other questions?
Did I keep you?
I don't know if you're comfortable answering this, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay.
We talked about this a little bit. You don't know yet what the impact of the tariffs might be and how that affects.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, we had people the first, you know, right after the election, they were calling us up and saying, well, what are you going to do about tariffs? Well, I can't do anything about it. You know, I have to wait until they hit us. But we had this happen during the first time this administration was in office, and it can be difficult because it's somewhat unpredictable when they're going to hit or where they hit or how much really gets passed on. Unfortunately, when we get hit by it, we have to pass it on. But we tend to lag a bit until we see it stable at a level we can predict. Right now it's not predictable. It's a little tough. But you know, the fact of life is in the States, and you know, you've seen the talk about automobiles. I think they're going to be impacted more than anything else, even more than what we would be, just because it seems to be a targeted area right now. But and the tariffs are pretty significant. But that said, you know, if we buy parts from U.S. companies, odds are a lot of them are manufactured overseas. Resistors, capacitors, transistors, you name it. Now, not every overseas company or country is getting, you know, slapped with tariffs and stuff. But some, you know, it's going to change where the supply chains get stuff from, but not necessarily from the U.S. You're going to see aluminum coming from other countries that are not under tariffs. In addition to the U.S. And of course, the price for U.S. aluminum is probably equivalent or higher than what the stuff with the tariffs coming in is as. And we don't control that because we just go to U.S. sheet metal places to bend our metal and you know, powder coat it and make it look all nice for the radio. I have no idea where they buy their stuff from. I just know when their prices go up. They don't even tell you if it's a tariff sometimes. So toughest thing for us, I was talking earlier, we were talking earlier about this, is some distributors, when you buy lots of parts from them, and you get a shipment of a whole bunch of stuff in one shipment to us. It might be multi-boxes, but it's one bill. And one vendor will give us on a per part basis what the tariffs were effect on it. You know, so it's this much percent more on this, and so here's the net price and so on. When it comes, a lot of times they can't do it until they ship to us because it's dynamically changing on them. So it's not something you can see on the order form or online when we order. And on the other hand, other vendors will put it all together in one single charge. It just says tariffs. Tariff charges. I have no idea of 1,000 parts in that box, you know, or however many different parts we bought. It applies, and that's very frustrating. We usually just have to scale it on a best guess basis, though it, on average, probably affects the radios about the same way. Like I said, this is what we had happen during COVID and all of that early stuff when that was happening. That said, these things tend to work their way out after a while. So I don't see it, you know, having the same impact it's going to have on cars on ham radios, but you'll see some increases and stuff. We've had some, we just actually put a bunch of, this is my ad today. We put all our specials on the web, I think a day or two ago with significant discounts because we did have some savings based on some cost reductions we're able to make, you know, negotiations with vendors, things like that. So you'll see our amplifiers and radios have some significant deals going on at the moment, and we're going to try to hold those as long as possible. And I think the main impact in tariffs will be is how long we can hold those before it creeps back to where it was before on the price. But we've dropped, you know, people that buy a combination of a K4 and a 1500 end up saving a bunch of money. But even a K4 is got a big special on it right now. So, and all the radios and the amps have that. So we're doing that, and as soon as it hit, I think we publicized it today, but it's, you know, you can see the increase in order rate on the web. So you folks are still in a buying mood, which is good for us. It keeps us going. You know, we're not a gigantic company. I'd love to say we were, but it's much bigger than a garage operation. But it's not Intel or something like that. So we have to be very careful about how we manage our cash flow and everything else to be successful. And so far, we've made it for 26 plus years. So hopefully, we'll keep doing it for a while longer.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thanks to both you and Wayne. We're lucky to have you in California. I think it's great. You are a small business. You're competing with, Yesu and ICOM and Kenwood and the others, and we're really pleased to have you in the state and to hear about the story. And thank you for taking the time to present to us tonight. I know you probably haven't been home, so we appreciate you staying at the office and setting this up. Any last questions for Eric before we move to the business part of our meeting? Okay. And a few of us, maybe not me, but we'll see you in Visalia. So,
good.
Yeah.
Come by the
looks like
booth.
we have one hand up online.
Okay.
Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick. The KH1 looks like a really fun radio, and it's pretty cheap at $600. I was wondering, how low could you go price wise? What's the floor? Not on the KH1, but just for any radio.
Oh, well, the KH1's by far the lowest one. Nobody really buys it for $600. Maybe one or two people have. Most of them take the package that has all the goodies with it, the auto tuner, the built-in battery, what else? Built-in battery charger.
Paddles.
It goes on and off. What's that? And the built-in paddles, you can plug in your own paddles. It's a 3.5 millimeter, 8-inch stereo style jack. You can also load new software in the radio over that jack. You just go into a menu and change it from CW paddle to digital, TTL serial. Yeah, so the average package goes out the door somewhere between, I think we're about $1,100 or so, but of all the goodies. We made it pretty good discount if you took the individual prices and packaged it that way. But you could easily get in with just the base radio and just run it off your own battery and power supply and put your own paddle on it for that entry price you were talking about there. So we wanted to have that for people that wanted to do it that way, though. What we found with the K2 and most of our other radios with options like that is it's amazing how high a percentage number of people that buy the base unit eventually come back and buy all the options. You just get it incrementally, it's birthdays, Christmas, or whatever holiday you want to give presents on, and either get them from someone else or give it to yourself. But it works out. But I'd say that's the lowest entry level. The K2 is more than that. Now it's not cheap to kit manually, and it's probably in the, God, what is it? It's probably right around $1,000 for a K2, but it's still the only radio you can build, and solder every part onto the board, and except for a couple of surface mount ones we pre-mount for you because you can't get them in through-hole packages anymore. And that's a radio that it really feels good when you turn it on and the smoke doesn't escape, and you get on the air with it. So.
Feel good about that. All right, thanks, Bill. Tom, do you have a question? I see you turned your camera on.
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Well, Eric, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you at conferences and other places, and maybe hearing you on the air. So thank you.
I'm out there. And feel free to say hi if you see me calling CQ or calling other people, and it's still a fun hobby, and I still enjoy it. I wouldn't still be doing this kind of stuff. We're always coming up with new crazy ideas, and we'll see how long that sustains us. But so far, it seems to work. We've been very lucky to just find some amazing people to work with us. So we've got a good team here, and it's been, some our employees. We've got people that are 20-year employees with us. I mean, it's
how many employees do you have now?
It's under 50. It cycles depending on what we're doing with different products, anywhere between the mid-30s and up just shy of 50. We use outside subcontractors actually for purchasing for all the parts that go on our circuit boards, and also for assembling the boards here. And they're all domestically in Silicon Valley, and actually, and Monterey Bay. We've got assemblers over here also. So that keeps our overhead quite a bit. We do all the the engineering is here, and also offsite. That's part of our head count. We got Silicon Valley titans that are retired that still want to do design. We've got just brilliant engineers all around the place to work with us, which is great. They pop up out of nowhere. But that's the basic size, and really, I don't need to push it harder than that, because that covers our customer support, covers our sales and marketing, and of course all of our assembly test. And we've got a big operation here that handcrafts and tests every radio. So we basically make sure that it works. And all of my test technicians, except two, are ham radio operators, and we may get those other guys drafted here soon. But you've got a crew that pretty much knows how the radios are going to get used, and so they want to make sure they work well.
That's great. Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you.
Well, thank
so
you.
much
Thanks for having me
time.
too.
Yeah,
Good
give him
group.
a hand. And we'll see you soon. You are welcome to stay for the business part of the meeting. You can hear the treasurer's report, but you don't have
I'll run as fast as I can out of the room here, but
okay.
no, I need
Thank
to
you.
get home. I need to get home and get some sleep. I still got a busy week ahead of me here, but this is fun stuff. I guess I'm an addict. I like meeting with people, and I learn a lot whenever I'm talking to people like yourselves, because the questions people answer have a subtle impact on us. We don't even tell you where we get all of our ideas from, but you'd be amazed based on what questions we get, what we come up with for ideas for either enhancement or.
Now you're thinking about what can we do on a brand new K4 where somebody can feel like they had some involvement in
More
it.
involvement in it, yeah.
Yeah.
No, well, that's a possibility there. We
Yeah.
never know. Yeah, it's
I'm
if any of you are pilots, that's my other hobby, by the way, is flying airplanes. There's a whole home builders tradition in airplanes, and I'm a member of the Experimental Aircraft Association, and it's the same thing. There's kit airplanes, and you just have to build for it to be experimental. I think it's 51% of it or something. A lot of it can be preformed sheet metal, things like that. But of course, those projects take years in some cases for people to get complete. But it's a very similar intense audience. And actually, when you go to the big airplane shows, there's a lot of hams there too. You'd be surprised what the crossover is between.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, thank you. We do actually have Neil, you used to run the space shuttle simulator. Yeah. So we have some interesting.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we have some pilots. So maybe they'll see you at Visalia or Pacificon or somewhere and they talk about that some more.
Yeah, my plane's down for maintenance right now, but if it's up, I usually fly out to Visalia because it's only 45 minutes from Watsonville.
Oh, that's good.
But I suspect this year it's down for a little bit, so I'm going to be driving. I'm getting a prop overhauled and a few other things. So it'll be back, and then I'll be zooming around. Actually, I've flown down to places to give talks too. That's always fun. So.
Well, let us know if you're ever in Sacramento on the first Tuesday of a month.
There you go. Okay. Well, thanks a lot for having me. I'll drop off
Eric.
to do the rest of your meeting. Thanks a lot, everybody.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Talk to you later here.
Talk to you later. Okay, we'll go through the business part of the stuff fast. Let's see. Our treasurers team, come up here so Carol can get you on camera. Oh, no, you've already been. That was the point of the handoff. Yeah.
And to be clear, Wilson keeps trying to do stuff for me because he's helping me, and I keep saying, no, I want to do it. And so so we've had a few new members, and I haven't sent out the welcome letter yet. That's number one on my list. So let's see. Our current funds in the bank are, as of March 23rd, are $10,126.21. And I don't have a breakout right today of the repeater fund monies. We did get 3 contributions to the repeater fund in that time period from David Minke, Lawrence Upjohn, and Lance Lewis. So thank you for contributing contributions to the repeater fund. We got some new members, but I haven't done everything in Ham Online and all that yet. So and then so after I do the welcome letters, I will do the checks, because several people have put in requests for reimbursement. And then I can't remember what the thing I was going to do after that, but it was one of those types of things. So I'm working hard. It's a much bigger or more far-flung position than I thought it was going to be. So it's going to take me a couple iterations to wrap my head around everything. And help from Wilson and Carol. So that's my report.
Yep. Thank you, Sylvia, for stepping up and doing that. We need volunteers for all areas of the club. The treasurer's position is probably the most complicated. But Wilson did a great job of cleaning it up so it's easier than when he inherited it. All right. Carol.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, this is the web resource report for the past month. And we have a few things, just April in radio history. April 25th, 1874 was the birth of Guglielmo Marconi, who did the first documented message 1.5 miles in the summer of 1995.
Can I add? I just finished a book by Eric Larson called Thunderstruck. Anybody? Have you? I would definitely recommend it to you because at one point he thought he needed 30,000 watts to do that. And it wasn't until, it's a great book, Thunderstruck. Okay, sorry, Carol.
Okay. A lot of others. Oh, was there a question? Nope. Another bunch of stuff happened in April. RMS Titanic sent its SOS in April 15th, 1912. Hiram Percy Maxim proposed the ARRL in April 6th of 1914. World War I radio silence started April 17th of 1917. David Sarnoff introduced commercial television at the New York World's Fair in April 30th, 1939. April 1st of 1965, the FCC released incentive licensing for amateur radio. And April 12th, 1955, technicians were first newly allowed on 6 meters. At that time, they were only allowed on 220 megahertz and above. It's interesting. Not even 2 meters at that time. April QST, make sure you, those of you who are members, check your April QST. There are a lot of really good articles in there. It's an excellent publication. And if you're not a member, I strongly suggest, because we could use your support in the ARRL. And okay, just to remind you that our website is n6na.org. We try to keep it up to date with all the information about our club and also amateur radio in the community. The HF seminar series is now open for signups. We have so far 8 people signed up for it.
Okay, and we don't, right now, we don't have a limit. Last year when we taught it, we were limited by room size. So please sign up. Hopefully, you know, a lot of the stuff that Eric Swartz was talking about today is not things that most of us deal with every day, but the HF seminar could help you kind of have a better understanding of all the whys for what he was talking about.
And we're going to be meeting here in this facility for the sessions. The first one will be April 29th, and they're going to last from like around 7 to 9 p.m. And these are on Tuesdays.
Tuesdays,
Yes.
these are Tuesday evenings.
They are Tuesday evenings, and there's 3 sessions. And we will plan another session for hands-on HF operating also. Farm and Tractor Days is coming up May 16th and 17th. That's a Friday and Saturday. And we will have a booth there. And we appreciate if you would stop by and say hi and perhaps participate in our outreach to the public there. A reminder also, May 25th is going to be the Carmichael Oaks Ham Fest over at the Carmichael Oaks Lodge. That's a Sunday, May 25th, 7 to 11 a.m. And free parking and admission for buyers and sellers. I believe there's maybe a $10 charge per table. But we'll like to support that. Remember, the field day is going to be June 20th and 29th. And you can sign up for this on our website, n6na.org, the same way you can sign up for the HF seminars. There's a link there. You can sign up. It brings up a form so you can join us.
We need a captain.
And yes, we do need a captain. A lot of events coming up. Wow, there's just so much going on. The Visalia meeting, of course, is April 11th to 13th. Our club breakfast is going to be April 19th. Over in Sonoma, there's going to be another Ham Fest on the 26th. That's the Valley of the Moon Amateur Radio Club. And then our next meeting here, May 6th, we will have Howard WB2UZE, who is the founder of the Long Island CW Club, and he's going to be joined by two of his compatriots there presenting the Renaissance of Morse Code. May 16 and 17 will be, of course, the Farm and Tractor Days. And don't forget, we do have our breakfasts and everything. There's a lot of activities going on. Contests in April. And of course, this is a picture from our participation in the single sideband sprint contest right here, just I think about a week ago. April 5th to 6th, there's a bunch of QSO parties. The Louisiana, Missouri, Mississippi, April 12th to 13th, Georgia, North Dakota, New Mexico QSO parties. The ARL Rookie Roundup single sideband is April 13th, and April 19th and 20th is Michigan, Nebraska, Ontario, and Quebec QSO parties. April 26th and 27th, Florida QSO party, and then that same weekend, the 1010 International Digital Contest. Remember our nets, Wednesdays, 8 p.m. is our 2-meter net on the N6NA repeater. 8:30 is our 10-meter US 10-meter single sideband net. And 9 p.m., of course, we have the slow scan TV net, which is live stream on our YouTube channel. Roundtable, of course, is Saturdays at 3 p.m. on 7181 kilohertz lower sideband. And these are the check-ins for the month of March. Very good participation in all our nets constantly. We love that. And of course, we're always looking for net control operators, and it's a lot of fun. And all of the scripts are online, so you can easily follow them and get some really good experience with that operating skill. Our next backup repeater net is going to be April 16th. It's always the third Wednesday of each month when we switch over to our backup repeater. And website activity for the month of March, we had a total of 813 page views, and the peak web page views were on March 19th, 73. The most visited pages were the home page with 350 views, our repeater page with 75, Nets page with 46, About Us 27, and the online swap page had 29 views. And most of our visits came through search engines, 66%, and 30.9% were direct hits to n6na.org. And most of our hits, again, were from the USA, 762 views, and several from other countries, as you see on the map there. Social media, on the YouTube channel, we have an increase of subscribers on YouTube to 575, and we had a total of 1,082 views of our videos. And a lot of them were the January meeting, which was our introduction to the QRP Labs QMX Plus transceiver. And I believe Hank and Gert have completed building one of those also, so and it's working. So congratulations on building one as well. And then Bob and 6PGQ tower installation video always is a top winner on the views there, 136. Then Bill and 6HA's talk about satellite and space communications was very popular, and then followed by some of the slow scan TV net videos. Facebook, we had an increase of 5 followers to 1,167. And our Facebook group, Twitter page, and Discord chat really didn't change significantly. Again, if you want to make any contacts here, any emails or messages to the board of directors or the officers of the club, or have any questions about the club, you can just send us an email at contact@n6na.org, and we will direct it to you and make sure you get an answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. That's a lot of work. Carol is keeps the club going. So thank you very much. Thank you for all of you who brought food to donate. I actually forgot today, although I brought some last Saturday when we were here for the SSB sprint contest. That food that you're donating goes to 2 food closets. One's at Arden Church, and the other is the organization called Trellis Gardens, which helps women and their children in workforce training. So thank you for doing that. Again, next meeting on May 6th here, that's the first Tuesday, we'll have Howard Bernstein and team from the Long Island CW Club. We did schedule the Are You Ready for HF seminar. And that is a fun seminar, even if you have years of experience in HF, because it's the social, as Phil always says, it's the social aspect of the hobby that's really enjoyable. Wait till you're there for the discussion about a counterpoise, right? That always gets the room going. We did schedule a Phil Sittner's VNA seminar workshop in September. It'll be 2 Tuesdays in a row in mid-September. So for those of you who are interested in taking the VNA seminar, please get ready for that in September. Make sure you read Ken. Thank you, Ken. Puts together the newsletter. He sends it out through the Ham Club online. Make sure you read the newsletter. That'll give you the most up-to-date information and all the dates for everything. And I'm just looking to see if there's something else I need to cover. Anything else that we need to cover? Did anybody bring anything for show and tell? And then we'll get to the drawing.
Okay, I have a question. How many of you have a ham radio in every one of your cars? 2 people. 3. 4. Okay. We have tested and discussed the very inexpensive Bofang radio. The last time I bought one, I bought 5 of them for about $85. So they are not expensive. They aren't very good, but they do work. Now, if you have a Bofang radio and you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, it might not get to a repeater or to anybody that can hear you, so you need an antenna. Well, my show and tell is this tram mag mount antenna that has a Hershey Kiss super magnet on the bottom, and I have tested it. It does not blow off your car, and it doesn't seem to scratch the paint. At least my cars, it really wouldn't make much difference. Ones that I have, it might even improve the paint. But these are on sale at Walmart online for $16.99. So it's affordable for everybody. This one has SMA plugs on it, so it can fit on almost all the handhelds and the Bofangs that you would put in your car. And if I would suggest you get a cigarette lighter adapter for the Bofang radio, it's like about another $9. And keep it in your trunk. I call them my trunk radios. So that's my show and tell for this evening, a $17 Walmart antenna.
How many people have a Ford that's aluminum?
Camera.
Is there? Oh, that's for the truck. I've seen that. I have an Expedition. I can't do that. I'll buy a truck. I can't buy a truck because it won't fit in the garage. All right. Any other questions or comments before we get to the Kayla? Hold on. I've got to have a microphone.
Dumb question. Hi, it's K6YLA. I have my Bofang, and it's working better than my ICOM. So it's now my car radio. But that SMA connector, I had to get a jumper cable at one of the previous Hamfests. And what I noticed, well, through a lot of troubleshooting, I found that the mag mount on my car that had been there for years had a short in the line. So my question is and I have one like that came with the radio, I believe. Do you this is the question. Do you pass it through the door jam or do you put it through the
The-
window
This
without
would
crushing it?
this would pass through the door jam, through the rubber molding would
Okay.
accommodate this.
That was a question. Thank you.
It's pretty thin. HRO has stuff like that too. Yeah. All right. Other questions? Thanks, you guys. Let me ask you. I want to get, and we're going to do the drawing. I want to get feedback from you. Was Eric's? What did you think of the Elecraft presentation? Was that what kind of presentations do you want? He's very detailed, right? I can also reach out to Yaesu and ICOM and get their salespeople. They're not going to go to that level of depth. So, what do you like, David?
Rod Sorensen, who last I saw was many years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago, did the repair of the physics equipment at Sac State. But he and his brother are pilots, or at least his brother's a pilot, and they've done all kinds of neat things. The last, I think, was cut off by COVID. I think they were in the Iditarod with the dog races up in Alaska. And, but he's done some great videos and he shows how ham radio fits into that. I don't know if he's available. I've been thinking about getting hold of him about some other things. Okay.
One other quick thing, if any of you people go to Batteries Plus, tell them you're a member of River City N6NA, and you'll get a fairly good discount, at least 10%.
Which one?
The one in Roseville is the one I talked to, but I think they put it in the computer. You can get it in any of them.
Oh,
Yeah, just tell them it's River City Arcs N6NA.
Citrus Heights, Howe Avenue, and Roseville. Okay. Different franchise. All right. That's good to know.
On the website, N6NA website, was a dealer listed in Elk Grove on Elk Grove Boulevard. And I went searching for it and it is no longer there. I can't remember the name of it, but it's in like the 8700 block or 8900 block. It's no longer there. It's been replaced with something else.
All right. Any other comments or questions? All right. Pull out your blue tickets. You lost your ticket? Oh, it's on the floor. I see it. If it's the winning prize, I'm going to claim it. So, all right. Gert? He left. Yeah. We'll keep an eye on that. Okay. All right. Well, Kayla, would you mind drawing for us? Yeah, pick the right one.
Okay. 156271.
Who is 271?
What's ours?
Wilson? All right, congratulations.
And you want to know how close? Look at that.
Are you going to
That
take
goes with that
coax
color.
too? You're going to take, Phil wants you to take the analyzers because he wants you to learn to, I know. You're good. All right. All right. It's user dependent.
Yeah.
Yeah, buying coax. Well, we're keeping HRO in business. Any other comments or questions?
Throw throw the old ones in.
Anything online? Anybody online? Comments, questions?
Yeah, you can just throw it in there.
No? All right. Well,
Trash bag.
keep thinking about who you want as speakers for the meetings or activities, and we'll see you next month and hear you on the air. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.